Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim, and this episode is going to highlight the Week 7 matchup between Texas and Oklahoma. And specifically, we want to talk about the matchups of the draftable players within the game. And this is definitely going to be a good game. There's a lot of premier players in this matchup. And if we look right at the top, there's 3 players for Texas that are all probably going to go in round 1. Kelvin Banks, Quinn Ewers, and Isaiah Bond. So part of what we want to look at is Quinn Ewers. Is he one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the class? Or is he, let's say, a tier down? I have him as a tier down from my top 3 quarterbacks. But this is going to be a game where we can prove that with our own eyes, right? And specifically the matchup I'm looking at is Quinn Ewers at quarterback going up against Danny Stutsman at linebacker, Billy Bowman at safety. Okay, so I love seeing quarterbacks go up against linebackers and safeties. So definitely a good matchup in that regard. Okay, in addition to that, we can see Kelvin Banks, the offensive tackle from Texas, going up against edge Dason McCullough and edge Ethan Downs. So McCullough, I have a draftable grade. Downs, I have him just beyond player 260. So either player showing out against Banks is likely going to improve their draft stock. And I have even talked with people where they're, let's say, so-so on Banks right now. His rating, they said, is more preseason than substance. So we should definitely keep an eye on, is Banks one of the top 2 tackles in the class, right? And let's use on-field performance to make that decision as opposed to what our preseason rankings were. So those are some of the draft conversations I have had, let's say, within the last 2 weeks with people. Other players I like in this matchup. Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas. So at the NFL level, is he going to play slot? Is he going to play safety? Is he going to play corner? What I will tell you is that he's a good football player. Okay. So we may not know right now watching him at Texas what his position in the NFL is going to be. But I would have Barron really close to a top 50 player in this class. So ask yourself when you're watching him, do you see him as a really good football player, a top 50 type? And then ask yourself, slot, safety, boundary corner. Texas is using him more as a boundary corner this year. That is not necessarily what we thought we were going to see when we went through summer scouting. So right at the top, those are the players that I like between Banks, Ewers, Bond, Stutsman, Barron. But we have a lot of other players that we want to talk about here. So Barron is going to be matched up against Deion Burks and Nick Anderson. So question, would you take Burks or Anderson in round 3? That's like a legitimate question there. So would you take them round 3, or are you thinking those guys are more day 3, round 4 to round 5 type wide receivers? So let's take a look at Burks and Anderson and how they match up against Barron. And we also have a safety from Texas, Andrew Makuba. So we'll see Barron and Makuba against Anderson and Burks. Definitely a good matchup there. If we flip it around, there's cornerback Gentry Williams from Oklahoma, and he's going to be matched up against Isaiah Bond. So Bond, for me right now, is wide receiver 4, and that would be after Hunter, McMillan, Burden. Bond is right there. And seeing Bond go up against a draftable corner in Gentry Williams. Williams is going to get drafted. Is it round 3, round 4, 5, 6, right? Somewhere in that range, right? So how Gentry Williams matches up and performs against Bond and Matthew Golden and the other Texas receivers, that's going to have a significant impact on his draft grade from the standpoint of you want to see the draftable player go up against NFL caliber competition. So definitely paying attention to that here. Another player to watch on Texas, guard DJ Campbell. Okay, so Campbell has already moved up my board significantly from where he was in the preseason. Right now with Campbell, I'm looking at round 4, right? Likely one of the 10 best guards in the class. So the question is, how high can Campbell go? Okay, what round grade would you put on Campbell? And we see a few people, like, he'll be matched up against Stutzman at times from Oklahoma. Okay, but that's definitely a matchup we would want to pay attention to. We've talked a little bit about some of the linemen, but let's focus now on Trey Moore and Barryn Sorrell, the edges from Texas, going up against Michael Tarquin and Jacob Sexton, the offensive tackles from Oklahoma. So no matter which edge is on which side, they're going to be matched up against a tackle that on my board, I don't have a draftable grade on Tarquin or Sexton. But even if they're not drafted, they're going to be UDFAs, likely either making the back half of a 53-man roster or a practice squad coming out of the season. There's not necessarily a lot of great tackles in this class. So teams that need a tackle and are likely to draft a rookie, it would not surprise me to see them hedge bets, meaning you take a tackle high, but then we're also going to take a tackle like Tarquin or Sexton, either it's round 7 or as a UDFA. So how Tarquin and Sexton play in this matchup against Trey Moore and Barryn Sorrell, and I have draftable grades on both Moore and Sorrell, is going to go a long way to where Tarquin and Sexton kind of fall out in the draft process. Okay. My name's Jim. This podcast is sponsored by NFLDraftFanatics.com. NFLDraftFanatics.com is the only interactive mock draft simulator. And what that means is when you do a mock draft on NFLDraftFanatics.com, the player boards move. The players you pick move up. The players you don't pick move down. And it gives a more unique mock drafting experience for the user, meaning that you come in, you do a mock draft today. Other users around the world are going to come in and do a mock draft. So if you come in next week, your mock draft is going to look different simply because the other users have changed the player boards. So especially in rounds 2 through 7, you will see a different mock drafting experience every day that you come in and use the simulator. My name's Jim. You can follow me at NFL Draft Fanatic on Twitter. There's no I am Fanatic. You can also like, follow, and subscribe to the NFLDraftFanatics.com YouTube channel. We love the interaction on the YouTube channel. Among the comments that our users have given us is they like seeing the player names when we do the podcast. So if you notice, the names have been added back to the podcast. In addition to that, people are asking about, well, how many draftable players are on such and such team, or what positions are they? All of that information is creating the podcast content that you're seeing today. So if you have any questions on the players, please watch the channel for more content. You can also leave a message on Twitter at NFL Draft Fanatic or on the YouTube comment section. So my name is Jim, and remember, every day is draft day if you have the right attitude. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great afternoon.